All right, Brian, and we are live.
All right.
So, as
I
we're
can't
getting
wait.
into, before we even start with this conversation, a few
Yes.
quick bullet fire questions for you.
Yes.
What's your philosophy as a writer?
Write what you like to read.
Ooh, I like that. Write what you like to read. We have a
Yeah.
lot of readers in the community, so I know a lot
Right.
of people can resonate.
Right.
If you could separate your writing journey into 3 chapters, what
Sure.
would their titles be?
Um, what the fuck am I doing? Oh my God, somebody help me. Then I think I know what's going on. Hey, look, squirrel. And then yeah, this is I think oh look, someone gave me a manual. I'm gonna follow the directions.
Brian, I think those are the best titles I've ever heard for life titles ever. I'm going to have to reclip that. That's hilarious. Whew. Okay. What is your biggest writing pet peeve
Oh gosh, like while I'm writing or like
while you're writing? Or maybe if you're like, what, when you're reading others?
I would say like when I have a really good idea in my
Mhm.
outline, the outline that I made 6 months ago, and then now I'm writing the book, and the characters take on like a life of their own, and they're
Mhm.
like, yeah, fuck you and your outline, and then I'm like, and I have to like delete, like remove, like rewrite the outline because they decided to do something else in the book, and it's like, oh god, well that's not going to work anymore, so.
Well, I guess that's probably a good problem to have. If your characters are at the point where they're talking to you, then you know at least they're full
Yeah.
characters now. Even if they're like, screw the
Yes.
outline, we're gonna write our own story now.
Yeah, so it's like my most recent published novel, because I know we're
Mhm.
on here to talk about my upcoming book.
Mhm.
My most recent actual published novel is called The Last Neurotransfer, and it's a cyberpunk dystopian novel. And I
Mhm.
had the outline like done. It was like there was no wiggle room at all, right?
Mhm.
And like chapter 3, like I killed off a main character by accident. I was like, well, this totally like I have to rewrite everything now. Like I just destroyed everything I had written.
You're trying to pull a Game of Thrones. You're like, let's just kill off the main character in the
Yeah.
beginning.
So
Everybody's
yeah,
gonna be
right.
fine.
Yeah. Basically, I just close my eyes now and just like delete people, and then open my eyes
I'm
and
like,
delete
which character should die off first? Well, let
that.
me ask my readers, which one do you love the most? We're gonna kill that one
Gone.
first.
Who do I think the readers are gonna love the most? Gone.
Okay. Which book besides your own is your
Yes.
absolute favorite?
Oh my goodness. Absolute favorite. I can't.
Absolute.
I can't. Can we go by genre? No, we have to
Sure,
do like
sure. Okay, well,
yeah.
we'll go. Why don't we go one of the most memorable? What is one of your most memorable books that you've read?
The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath.
Ooh, so Plath is a good one.
Yeah.
Great author. You
Yeah.
said the Bell Jar.
Yeah, that's The Bell Jar, her novel, The Bell Jar. The Bell Jar affected me in a way that a lot of other books didn't. The
Mm,
Virgin Suicides had
mhm.
a profound effect on me. Um, my favorite author is Stephen King. So, like, as
Love Stephen.
police
You know, we
state,
actually just our last podcast episode. I had a guest on here who did a horror adaptation of a Stephen King short.
oh, that's cool.
And yeah, he's and then his like film was premiering at the King Con. So I was like,
Was
I
it
I
through?
love Stephen King. I don't read too much about I don't
Was it
read too
through?
much of his stuff, but I love him.
Do you know? Was it through Book Babies?
It
A Dollar
wasn't
Baby? I mean, Dollar Baby. That's what I meant to say.
yeah,
Dollar.
it was through Dollar Baby. Yep,
Okay.
yep, yep. It was through Dollar Baby, and he
Here's the
adapted one
thing.
of those shorts. I
That's
never knew that Stephen King sold his short
for a dollar.
stories for a dollar.
Yeah, which is
Well, how
amazing.
badass! I want to do that. I'm gonna do that eventually.
If anybody ever wants to talk shit about that man, there's two things I will bring up to them. I'll be
Okay.
like, he sells rights to his short stories for $1,
Mm-hmm.
and he paid something like $100 million to have a cancer wing built at the Bangor hospital, like out of his own pocket for kids,
Mm-hmm.
like a kids
Mm-hmm.
cancer wing. Like, I don't care if you don't like the guy's writing, but oh my god, so.
As a humanitarian, I think that's incredible.
Yeah, right. And then as artists, like as someone who, he understands artists who
Mm-hmm.
struggle, who are trying to break through. So for him to, put his short stories at $1 to buy the rights because, and the only reason why he does that is because there has to be some monetary exchange for it to be legal. and the minimum is $1. So he's like, fuck it, we'll do $1. I don't care, right? I mean, really, it's free. It's like so I think that's really, really cool of him. But also going back, Clive Barker and Anne Rice were pretty big.
I grew up with Anne Rice. Absolutely. I loved a lot of Anne Rice's stuff. Clyde Barker is great.
Yeah.
I think we have some Anne Rice fans in the community actually, but all of those authors, absolutely great recommendations. And then my final question of our speed round.
Yep.
How scary was it to write a novel inside a haunted penitentiary?
Which night?
Oh, well, Brian, that was an absolutely great response. I know we're going to dig into it more shortly, but first, I'd like to welcome you to the Create Right Now podcast. Today, I've invited author Brian Paone as we're going to be exploring his once in a lifetime experience where he wrote a horror novel inside a haunted penitentiary, inside these cells, and it's so crazy. Like, if you are a horror buff at all and you could imagine what it's like just being inside a haunted building and then writing night over night over night, crazy experience. So that's what we're going to be diving into today. But by the way, if you're watching on the replay, we got you covered. Time codes get added at the end of the stream. So that way you can hop to the question, the part of the interview that you loved. So as we hop into our interview, we're going to be going over a couple different segments. But before I review that, let me welcome everyone to the stream. ML, welcome, my friend. The Get Haunted Network. I love that name, by the way. Get Haunted. And Danny Marie, Divination with Danny. Ooh, divination. I love that. That sounds like a really cool branding, actually. And Ms. Jessica Bell, welcome. And Gory, welcome over from Twitch. I get these points, but as a writer, honestly, I think he's a cliche writer who struggles to step outside of a self-made box. And especially with bigger authors who end up getting to such a large presence, it's so crazy how they get to these such huge authorships, and then we're like, we love them or we hate them, and I absolutely respect that. And Miss Amy Hunter, welcome to the stream, my friend. All right, and so for today, we're going to be breaking up this conversation into a couple of different points. We're going to be exploring what Brian did from the research, the preparation, the writing on location, and then the overall story development of creating this horror novel in a haunted penitentiary. So as with our guest, when Brian Paone, he's an author from Salem, Massachusetts, entered the Missouri State Penitentiary as a guest for an overnight ghost hunt with Get Haunted, he never expected the turn of events that followed. With spectral muses running wild, the draw to base his next novel exclusively within the penitentiary proved too great to ignore. With the idea to write a horror novel about a ghost hunt gone wrong during one of SP's ghost tours, Brian was granted permission to write the entire novel inside the haunted buildings of MSP. But when they weren't, Brian was trapped inside those walls, alone in his cells, forced to write the story with only the glow of his laptop to catch the fleeting shadows. Please welcome Brian back to the stage. Welcome, my friend.
Hello.
Glad to.
I like the way you read that. That was.
Thank you. You know, it lets me be the presentational vibe. You know, give you your own podium to walk up to. So I know today I've been looking forward to experiencing this and understanding this step-by-step process.
Sure.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody who's literally gone inside of a haunted place, haunted building just to write a story. I know we've seen the ghost. I know we see the ghost shows. I know I've seen a lot of those. I worked for a psychic for a year, so I have quite a range of experience with supernatural phenomenon, but I have such respect for what you've done. So I want to hop into the process and really understand step by step. Sure. So let's get into how you went about researching and what this initial decision looked like. Yeah. Why choose to write a book on location?
Somebody joked, there's something called method acting, where actors on set don't.
Yeah, I wanted to say this was method writing. That's the first term that came to me.
Right? And I've never done that before. So My first novel was published 17 years ago. So I've been a published
Okay.
author for 17 years.
Okay.
The
Congrats, by the way. That's incredible.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Appreciate that. Thank you. It's been a journey, right? Lots of ups and downs. Lots of late night vodka and tonics and gin and tonics and stuff at 2 a.m. and wondering why the crap I'm still doing this. However, the closest I've ever come was I did write a historical war romance novel, which is off the purview of this show. I get it. About the Falklands War in England. So
Okay.
I flew to England and I interviewed 10 vets from the war. And I thought that was a big deal. I was like, oh my God, I'm getting on a plane and I'm interviewing these vets so I can write this book. And like that, and I got interviewed about that and like what that was cool. But I didn't realize that taking on this project would just create such a, I don't know, like a stir. Okay. What happened was I've had the same editor from day one.
Okay.
My editor, Denise Barker, I love her. I don't know what I would do without her. She has edited 9 of my 10 novels. We work together like a rhythm section in the band. You and I were talking about music before we went live. What makes a good band, I think, is when the bass player and the drummer are so in sync that they don't even have to look at each other, where they know something's going to happen, right? The drummer's like, oh, I think he's going to do this. And the bass player's like, oh, I think he's going to do this, right? So me and Denise over 17 years have kind of built this relationship to the point where, I pitch, my next book idea to her and we kind of get on the same page. She kind of knows what's going on. I'm going to tell you right now, I did not know that the Missouri State Penitentiary existed 10 months ago. Didn't even know it was there. I went to Missouri for training from my job. My 9-to-5 job sent me to Missouri for training.
This sounds like the setup to a horror novel, by the way.
Right. Well, that made it right. So, we were looking for something to do over the weekend. I had already pitched my next book to my editor, which is going to be. Do you remember the old telephone operators where they had to like plug in?
Yep. You mean before these things called smartphones?
Exactly. So my idea for my next book was going to be a neo-noir novel, kind of like Dark City, if you saw that movie.
Yep. I did like that.
The tone of Dark City, where this woman, she plugs in and a serial killer tells her the name of the next victim and then hangs up. And then
that's cool. Okay.
Have to bring in this telephone operator to solve this, this serial killer thing. That was my idea, right? That's kind of what was going on in my brain. I had a buddy we were bored one weekend. He says, hey, the Missouri State Penitentiary has overnight ghost hunts. Do you want to go? And I was like, I've never done an overnight ghost hunt. Right? I'm from Salem, Massachusetts. Okay. I grew up in a funeral home in Salem, Massachusetts, in the area. Which is a whole nother caveat.
I know nothing about Salem except Salem witch trials. Like that's my only knowledge of Salem. Right. I don't know if that's accurate or not.
No, it is. It is.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, we'll go to this overnight thing. That's kind of cool, right? Okay. And I went to Missouri State Penitentiary, did an overnight ghost hunt, and it was one of those things where I felt like I'd been hit in the chest with like a sledgehammer. Right? I was like, I cannot believe that this happens. Like people do. This was so amazing. When it was over and they called for time, I was like, no, like this, right? I was like a little kid, right? A little kid at like an amusement park, right? I didn't want to go. I didn't want to leave. And our tour guide that night was this woman named Jenny. And I'll talk about all the MSP staff if we want, but they're all amazing. Every single one of them are just absolutely fantastic. But Jenny,
who's your favorite
of all of them?
No, I'm kidding.
They know.
That's like trying to ask a parent who their favorite child is. You're like, yeah, I'm not allowed to say that.
They're all amazing in their own ways. But I went back the next week for an 8-hour overnight because the Get Haunted ghost hunting crew was hosting an 8-hour overnight.
Yeah, Haunted saying Rob's your favorite.
Right? Rob, yeah. Rob's my buddy. So the Get Haunted crew were hosting an 8-hour overnight the next weekend. And now here I am, like, I'm going. I'm doing this. I don't right. So I went. And
Okay.
as an author, well, I went and to Get Haunted, and I actually have to help. I actually have to. Rob's laughing. Sexy beast that he is. So they split us up into these little groups because there were so many people there, and they put me and the few people I went with two other people that I did not go with. It was a woman named Hannah and her friend named Lizzie. Hannah actually becomes the main character of my novel. I'm actually using everybody in my book are real people who exist in real life. Either they work at Missouri State Penitentiary, they're part of the Get Haunted crew, or they're people that I met during these ghost hunts. So it's almost like serendipity. Like if Rob didn't like stick me with Hannah and her friend, I even know if this novel would even exist. But we were doing our thing, and I was like, "There's something here." And like as an author, I was like, "I don't know what it is," But the light bulb went off, right? And I didn't know what I was going to do with it.
Okay.
And then I lost sleep over the fact that I didn't know what I was going to do with it. But the draw was so powerful. I was like, I have to write a book about a ghost hunt gone wrong because I love horror. Horror is my favorite, right? Horror.
Yep. I love horror as well. Yep.
When it's all said and done. I love all genres, but it's all said and done. Horror is my favorite. And I said, my God, there's something here, but I just don't know what it is. And I reached out to Jenny, the tour guide, and kind of told her about, I was like, I think I want to write a horror book about one of these overnight ghost hunts, where fucking shit spirals out of control, and she's like, well, come to the penitentiary. And I did. And I met with Jenny on the side and we talked. I was like, and as me and her were talking, I was like, my job is sending me back here for 8 weeks for training, for additional training later in the year.
Okay.
What do you think I could just write here? And Jenny was like, I don't know. Like nobody's ever done that before. Nobody's ever asked us that. Like I was like, well, where do I start? She's like, well, let me push it to my boss, right? Her boss, Sheila. And so she pushed it up the chain. And then it obviously the penitentiary is owned by the state of Missouri and the city, but they're city employees of Jefferson City. So there's all these like working, moving parts. And they had to vet me. They made sure that I wasn't just some like weirdo.
Some crazy who just wanted to
crazy guy who wanted to like sit in the penitentiary with a laptop.
Like, I'm not a crazy guy. I'm just a crazy writer with voices in my head. They're characters.
I think what it was, they wanted to make sure that at the end of 8 weeks, if they said yes, they weren't going to look at my laptop and see all work and no play makes Brian a dull boy like over and over and over, right? Like but like this guy just wants free tickets to a bunch of ghosts. Like is that what it is? So I went out to dinner. Me and Sheila went out, and Jenny went out to dinner. We had like this business meeting, and I laid out my plan, and I, I gave her the plot idea, and then they had already vetted me, and to make sure that I was like real, and there was a lot. Let me say this: there was a lot of like red tape that I felt like I had to go through to be able to get permission to do this. Not the average Joe couldn't pick up the phone and be like, I want to write a horror novel inside the Missouri State Penitentiary. Can I squat there for 8 weeks while I write? There was definitely a lot of, vetting and stuff that happened, which I'm thankful that they gave me the green light because they were like, okay, I think you can, I think you're suitable to do this.
Of course. And I mean, you also have very outgoing energy. I mean, clearly having been a musician most of your life. So I think that probably helps especially with networking, but that's awesome. You were able to make that connection with them. So like, how long did that process take from, okay, I ghost hunt to, all right, we're ready for the first night? How long did that setup take for you?
I ghost hunted June 1st.
Okay.
I remember the date.
And that was June 1st of this year, of 2024. Yeah. Okay.
And night 1 in the prison was July 26th.
July 20th. Okay. So it took you about just under 2 months. So I'm actually not surprised, especially because you said that was it's state owned.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
but in that time frame from June 1st to July 26th,
Mhm.
July 26th was night number one writing, not outlining, not trying to
Mhm.
figure out what I wanted to do. We're talking
Mhm.
about it was chapter one. I'm writing, so I
Yeah. So when you got with the so obviously that just took you about 2 months to set up. Then during that 2 month time, what type of research was involved for the book itself? Were you
all right.
just like ideating during that time, or like, hey, this is the type of story, or what?
So the Missouri State Penitentiary has such an amazing history because it's
Hmm.
the longest or oldest running penitentiary in America's history, right?
Hmm.
It opened in it. There's so much involved, but I knew that I wasn't writing a historical fiction novel. I was writing a horror
Hmm.
novel, right? The
Hmm.
1954 riot that happened
Hmm.
in the penitentiary was so heinous. It was so egregious, and it was just so fascinating. I knew that I wanted the riot to happen in my book as a residual haunt. So there's a moment where my characters are
Hmm.
thinking they kind of have a leg up and they might be winning, and then
Hmm.
the riot happens. And it happens every night. And they get trapped in the riot.
Oh, I
So
love that. That's like such a creepy ghost story vibe. I
yeah,
love
so
that.
I did an extensive amount of research
Mhm.
on the actual riot of 1954 of the
Okay,
Missouri.
so then you could get like the accuracy, like the facts of it, right?
Yes. And
And then
I
so I'm curious, what so we know the fact of it, what was the riot that happened? What was the truth behind that? Was it like there's a single prison riot
so
or
what
what?
happened was that they were rioting almost like how we have protests, right? They were rioting for better food, for better
Mhm.
clothes, for better conditions, for better, right? It wasn't necessarily they were rioting to like escape because the riot stayed contained inside of the prison. They were
Mhm.
rioting to have a better quality of life, which is crazy because you would think it when you think of prison riot, you think, oh, they're all trying to escape. Well, they actually weren't trying to escape. They were actually just trying to like get like better amenities. Um,
Oh, so what were conditions were just that bad?
Conditions were that
Uh,
bad where
uh,
they were willing to riot just
uh-huh.
so they could have a better life in prison, which is a fucked
It's
up,
like so
like
sad.
you
That's
go
so
down that,
sad.
right? Like that's crazy.
Okay.
So the riot to me was just wild, and know it had to be a part of the book. I just
Mhm.
knew it caused so much chaos
Mhm.
in such a steeped part of the prison. If I did not have the riot happen residually as ghosts,
Mhm.
then I was failing the history of the prison, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Mhm.
So the short story of the prison riot is that they had fixed a water leak, water pipe leak in one of this kid's cell. I think he was 19 years old, and he feigned being sick and that the leak was still happening for a guard to come in. Him and
Mhm.
his roommate, his cellmate, attacked the guard, got the
Mhm.
keys, and went down and unlocked all these doors. Bum, 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 and got everybody out, everybody out, everybody out. Let's go.
Okay.
They hit the factories, so they started like breaking chairs and tables, and they were grabbing
Mhm.
sledgehammers and brooms, and they were using all
Mhm.
these things as weapons. But here's the caveat to this:
Mhm.
inside death row,
Okay.
under protective custody,
Mhm.
was a man
Mhm.
um, who
Oh,
had
no.
squealed uh,
Mhm.
about a series of gang members who were committing crimes in St. Louis. He testified against
Oh, shit. So there were
them.
some people probably out for him.
They knew where he was, right?
Oh, no. Okay.
So they stormed death row. He was
Mhm.
being kept there under he wasn't on death row. He was just being kept there.
Yeah, he was just stored there. Okay.
Well, they stormed death row, and there's some back and forth about what actually happened at
Mhm.
this point. But the death row guard panicked, took
Mhm.
his keys, and threw them through the gate, so they were on the inside of death row, away from the rioters.
Mhm.
Now I understand that reaction. Like, there's a point where I go, okay, that that kind of makes sense. Like, oh my god, like holy shit, like
Mhm.
now you can't get in. Well, they were like, well, we have sledgehammers, so we're gonna
Mhm.
sledgeham through the
Through the
wall, which
Yep.
they
Okay.
did. They actually sledgehammed through the wall and found the guy, went
Oh
into his
no.
cell, and beat him to a bloody pulp. I mean, we're talking
Yeah.
worse than in a Saw movie, beat him to a bloody pulp.
Wow. And they basically beat him to death.
I mean, they just ripped him apart. They
Yeah.
went in and just ripped him apart, right?
Ugh.
So we found out what cell that happened in actually while I was writing this book. They did not know exactly what cell this actually happened in until just a couple weeks ago. And one of the tour guides, one of the history tour guides, who's just so smart about the prison, did so much research. And I was sitting at my little writing desk in the prison, I was by myself, and I'm writing, and he comes running in, right? And he's like, Brian, because I asked him, he's like, I think I know the cell. I think I got it. I think I figured it out. Cell 18. That's where they were holding him. I was like, okay. So I went back in, so there's a whole chapter where this riot happens. But my two main characters, who are there for an overnight ghost hunt, get trapped now within this riot, and they're part of the beating.
Oh, that's cool.
Of this inmate.
That's really cool. That's really, really cool. All right. So are the characters in the story, what's the background that you set them at? Are they ghost hunters?
Yes. So my main character, this will be my 11th published book. It's the first.
Congratulations. That is an incredible achievement.
Thank you. Actually, behind me is all the front covers. This is on my wall in my bedroom.
Yes. Oh, that makes me very happy to see, because that's always a huge inspiration for authors.
I gotta give a shout out to Amy Hunter. She logged in. I know she's watching, but she's taken over most of my front covers. So most of these are her design. So
Amy Hunter is your cover designer?
Yeah, and she did the front cover for this book too, which we haven't released yet. So, but it looks fantastic. It's amazing. She is top notch. I couldn't imagine not having her in my life when it comes to my front covers. But main character wise, so I've never written a female lead before.
Okay.
Ever. I've always done male leads with female also main characters, but they're always either
yeah, they weren't the protagonist, essentially.
They're always the Robin to the Batman, right?
Okay.
Right. So this time it was like I met Hannah, the real Hannah, in real life, and she, I was smitten by her, and she had some sort of muse over me, and we started talking, and I got to learn a little bit about her personal life, and she allowed me to throw a lot of her personal demons into the book. She gave me permission, which was like super cool of her. So my main character is a recovering alcoholic. She went to the Missouri State Penitentiary on her 21st birthday. This is all fabrication. The real Hannah didn't actually do any of this, right? So
gotcha. So this is your protagonist.
This is what we have to build, right? So my character on the 21st birthday went to the Missouri State Penitentiary for an overnight ghost hunt, drunk, right? Because she was an alcoholic, and her friends kind of dared her to steal something from one of the cells. So she steals something and takes it home. Takes it home, and she starts seeing a shadow figure in her home because there's a residual.
Yeah. All right. So then we got like the haunted object. The haunted object brings the ghost. Yep.
Exactly. So the book is about her now sober, going through AA.
Which that's great. That's a great challenging. That's a challenging obstacle to write, but that's a good one.
She just Hannah's gonna smack me around. Yes, she will. That's all right. I think I told Hannah to log in. Hopefully I know she's not watching. She might watch like the replay, whatever. But anyway, but the actual book is about her now sober, going back to the penitentiary on an overnight ghost hunt that is hosted by Get Haunted, the Haunted Network, to return the item, to get rid of the residual, this shadow figure she keeps seeing everywhere. But here's the thing. This is the conflict that I'm putting in the book. So if a escaped convict and you have freedom, do you want to go back to your cell?
No.
You would not want to return.
You probably want to leave the prison.
You would probably want the person who's bringing you back to leave. In my book, okay, nope, retract that. In real life, in the Missouri State Penitentiary, in death row, there is what they call Big Boy. He's a 7-foot shadow figure. You can Google him. You can YouTube him. There's been multiple sightings of him. Almost every tour guide at MSP has seen him. They have their own personal stories of Big Boy. Rob from Get Haunted, if he's watching, has had a very specific, intimate experience with him. He's known to do the Jesus Christ pose and come down a hallway.
Interesting. And so this character is called Big Boy. So this sounds kind of like a folk, maybe like a folk tale, a ghost story.
Yeah, Big and a lot of people have, but a lot of people. So in real life, they call him Big Boy, right? I don't necessarily call him that in my book, but that's if you were to Google him or YouTube him, he's seen a lot by a lot of visitors, the staff, people who have been there to ghost hunt. In my book, I made him the warden. I made him.
I think that's a good choice. That's a good choice.
So we have the inmate who's been returned by Hannah, but now we have a warden who's happy to have his ghost back. Do you think he's going to let him leave? He's not, right? So, so my book is about during this ghost hunt, we have this the warden, the 7-foot shadow figure, this Big Boy, he's like, oh my God, my inmate's back. Like my escapee's back. The escapee is like, fuck you. I want to get the fuck out of here. And like Hannah is trapped in the middle and she doesn't realize it because he's attached.
I love that. So she, okay. I actually I like that from a plotting perspective, even just hearing like as the core plot in the first half of the book,
right?
Of a character going, basically taking something they shouldn't because they make light of it. The character is obviously overcoming their own demons of alcoholism, and then being trapped and pulled into a greater ghostly conflict where now their life is at stake.
Right. And the thing about the AA, real Hannah, she's amazing. She's absolutely just fantastic. We were on the phone one night and she spent a lot of time. She went over for research purposes. She went over how AA works. And the steps and one of the steps is like righting your wrong, like
I want to say AA it's an 8-step process.
12, isn't it 12?
How much is it?
12.
So the 12-step program. You're right.
So and she was like, well, the character they're writing about, if it's me, would be in I think she said step 9, which is where you go and like apologize and right your wrongs. She's like, so my Hannah character in that stage would want to return the item because that's the forgiveness stage. It's the I did this while I was inebriated and I'm trying to right the wrong. And so I based the book off of that idea of like righting the wrong, but then having the ghost who's attached to it not want to go back to jail, and the warden go, I can't believe you're back. I'm not letting anybody leave. So it was fun. Fun is like a really bad word to use when it comes to alcohol. It was fun to use, I think, an affliction, and bring it into a horror novel. And the reason why the Hannah character is bringing it back is because she's trying to make amends.
Okay.
Because she could have just kept it, right? And just dealt with her shadow figure popping up everywhere. But she needs to make amends. But she doesn't know what cell it came from. So that's really the main drive of the book. Like, what cell did it come from? And if she doesn't want to just throw it into a random cell, because that wouldn't return, that wouldn't make the real amends, right? Just be like,
that totally makes sense.
He's in cell 7 now. No, bitch, he never was in cell 7. You failed. So, and Rob from Get Haunted and Sarah and Trevor from Get Haunted, if they're watching, they're main parts of the book too. So they kind of
And
helped.
so it sounds like this was really a true collaborative process. Well, you yourself are obviously the core writer. Sounds like you almost had this team around you of people who really want this to work and be an awesome experience.
I couldn't have done this without the support from the Missouri State Penitentiary crew,
Okay.
the Get Haunted crew. Just their enthusiasm has been absolutely off the chain. Just
I love that.
Work. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, what I want to do, Brian, is I want to hop into what this next step of the journey looks like now. So once like the book's written and we get to like the marketing, the release, and I know we have something cool with a live release event. So I want to hop into that in just a second. But first, if you're finding any value from this, follow and subscribe. We're here every day with the Right Now community with daily writing motivation. Our Create Right Now podcast, I invite authors, writing professionals, and all styles of writers to help give you the motivation to write that next book and hopefully motivate us to go write our stories in a haunted penitentiary. Like now I feel motivated now to go write a horror story. So tap that button and you'll be alerted when we go live. And if you want to know more about author Brian Paone, let me just throw up his website real fast. The description is down in the YouTube comments as well. So I want to throw that down in the YouTube description if you want to learn more about Brian. And like I said, has over, it sounds like, 9, 10, 11 almost books coming out. So clearly a lot of experience. So if you're with us, we're going to be hopping into what does this next step of the process look like now. So clearly he went through the process of writing the book in this haunted penitentiary. And it sounds like it's an awesome story, by the way. I want to read it now, but I know it's not even ready. So I wish I could read it now. So we're going to hop into what is the live event going to look like? How do you market something like this? And then what is the next step of the process? So that way you can take it as a key takeaway for your own marketing journey, my friends. All right, Brian. So let's hop into the marketing aspect of this. Like, I know we were talking about this before we went live, but we're like, all authors have to market their books. They got to do something.
So what's crazy? I've had so many authors be like, "Yeah, you own this. Like, I can't believe that you spent 8 weeks in a haunted penitentiary." Like, and and we didn't really talk about this too much. I don't know if we're going to get to that later in this, but like what it was like to sit in those cells at night.
I love
in
this.
the dark, alone, and then a noise goes off. And I have so much stuff that happened to me while I was writing. So for marketing reasons, I've had a lot of people ask me, nobody seems to care about the book. Like actually the book itself.
So, it's interesting because I think the experience is so unique because I hear it as a writer and I'm like, the book itself will be great. I don't doubt that. Right. But I think nobody considers I'm going to go sit inside a haunted cell inside a penitentiary.
Right.
And actually go write something. Right. So you're right. I actually want to better understand how scary was it? Like,
yeah, it was fucking terrifying at times.
And was it just you on your laptop at a desk? Were you by yourself? Did you have a team with you? How did that work out?
Team. No, I would check in. All right. So my night one, I decided to start a diary. Just to keep track of things that happened to me within the prison while I was writing.
Okay.
And my diary started to get so big that my editor said, why don't we publish your diary at the end of the book as an author's note? So the book will end and then there'll be an author's note and we'll just publish your diary. Because just so much stuff. We could do a whole show on the stuff that happened to me there. So some of
your experience outside of writing the novel.
No, well, while I was there writing, right? Okay, so I'll give you like 2 or 3, the ones that stand out the most.
Okay. Okay, I give it to us. All right.
And again, if there's skeptics, if ghosts exist, that's fine. I'm not gonna, I'm not here to be like, change your mind. I'm just letting you know what I experienced because I'm also not the person. It's weird because I don't believe that everything is a ghost, but I also don't believe that nothing is a ghost, right? There, I'd like to think I live in like a healthy middle ground where if you come into a haunted place and some water drips in the next room, you don't go, oh my God, it's a ghost! Water dripping! It's weird! It's a ghost! It's a ghost hunt, so it must be a ghost. No, it's not. Like, it's a fucking water dripping. Like, you know. But I'm gonna tell you right now, so one of the things, so Trevor Faith, he's part of the Get Haunted people. He came out and he stayed with me one night while I wrote, and I set up actually, let me back up a second. I set up a writing desk in a chair inside A Hall. A Hall is housing unit 4. It was a general population.
Okay.
It's a building where they have the peekers. They call them the peekers. It's very well known for to see a shadow figure kind of peek out and go back into a cell, peek out and go back into a cell. That was my main writing spot. So that's where I set up camp. So I had a desk, which I dragged out of somebody's cell. I didn't even know what cell I got it out of, but I dragged this table out of a cell and I had a chair. And that's where basically I spent most of my 8 weeks writing, because one of the rules. So when I was approved to do this novel, I did get a couple rules by Sheila, the prison boss. One of the rules was that I couldn't really impede on the tours. Like I couldn't. Like
that makes sense.
Like people paid money to come to the Missouri State Penitentiary for a tour. Like I couldn't like get in their way.
Okay.
So I would sit in cells when the tour wasn't in the building, and then when I heard them coming, I would come down the stairs or come wherever it was, and then I would sit in a very specific spot that made it so I wasn't like interfering with the tour.
Okay, that makes sense.
So there would be like 40 minutes of me being alone in the dark in a cell writing, and then 20 minutes of me having to kind of go sit in a spot and write, because there was an actual paid tour. And then when the tour left the building, then I would be allowed to, then I would be like, okay, well, fuck it, I'm going to go up to cell 43, or whatever, right? But I couldn't do that when the tour was there, because, these people paid money, and I wanted to respect everything. Was
absolutely
right.
Absolutely.
But I was sitting down in my writing little spot, and I had there's an app where it's called GhostTube, and it kind of pulls frequencies from the air and it converts it into a word bank. And I had it on when I was writing at all times. And I was sitting there and I was writing, and it said, like, who are you? And that's what my app said. And I'm writing. And I'm like, you know who I am. I'm the author writing the book. That's how I would always answer. And I'd be like, and who are you? And it said 43. And I paused because I was sitting directly across from cell 43. It could have said any fucking other number in existence. And I was like, okay, well, 43 is the cell where they see a lot of shadow figures come in and out of. In fact, one of the Missouri penitentiary guides, Patrick, just texted me a few days ago an image of somebody right outside 43 looking right. And I was like, huh, that's interesting, right? So it's stuff like that where you go like, okay, so I spent a lot of time writing in cell 43 because it made itself known. So I went into cell 43, and it was during an overnight ghost hunt. And if you've ever sat in a room where the laptop screen is bright and everything beyond it is dark, makes it blacker and blacker and blacker, right? So I was sitting on this cot and I'm writing. I had no idea that somebody had entered the room, the cell with me. A human, not a ghost. No idea she was standing over me. I couldn't see her. So I'm typing. And she goes, so how's it going? I fucking lost my mind. I almost like flipped my laptop. I screamed so I was like, ah! So Patrick is down in A Hall, and I hear him laughing. He goes, and I come like screeching out of the cell 43, and I sit next to him, and I'm like, nope, 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 nope. He's like, oh, so scared of humans now, are we? He's like, like that was the joke, right? So,
Oh, that's hilarious.
but Trevor from Get Haunted
Mhm,
came out, and I was writing, and he's sitting across from me, and he goes, Brian, he goes, what the fuck is that? And I look up, and
mhm.
at the last moment, I see this like shadow figure down on the ground, almost like
Okay.
Samara from The Ring, and it scampers across, and it disappears into one of the cells.
Mhm.
And I look at Trevor, and I go, what did you see? Because my thing is like, I want someone to corroborate. I don't want to tell
Mhm.
them what I see and then they agree. And then I'm like, well, I don't know if you're just agreeing with me because that's the whole skeptic
Okay.
side, right? So I'm like, what did you see? And he describes it. I'm like, motherfucker, that's exactly what I just saw. And he goes, and right. So it came out of a cell on the right. Now,
Okay.
every night during the ghost hunts, they have a police officer in uniform on duty on
Mhm.
property in case
Gotcha. Okay.
drunk, in case a fight breaks out, whatever, right?
Okay.
Me and this police officer, female police officer, her name is Jensen.
Mhm.
Jensen or Jansen, I can never remember, but I know if she's watching, I'm so sorry. And then another one of the tour guides, James, we went into a cell, which
Okay.
would very well have been the cell that this thing had come out of that me and Trevor saw a couple weeks earlier. I
Okay.
went to the right. There's a barber chair in the corner. It's cell 20.
Mhm.
I loved cell 20. I felt very comfortable in there. I liked
Mm.
being in there. The barber chair was super comfy. I mean, you could
Mhm.
like fall asleep in it. There was certain cells where I felt when I was writing that whatever entity was in there
Like more
was
comfortable.
affecting me, or if there wasn't, or whatever it
Mhm.
was, right? But
Mhm.
cell 20 was definitely one of these cells where I liked to go in.
Mhm.
I wrote countless nights in cell 20.
Mhm.
Well, the police officer, full uniform, right? Full
Mhm.
uniform, sitting to my right.
Mhm.
James is sitting to my left.
Mhm.
I'm writing. It's, I think, 1 a.m. or so.
Mhm.
She goes, I feel something touching my leg, but I don't want to look down. So
Mhm.
me and James look down, and her entire right leg is gone. Meaning it would be like if someone took like a black like curtain and
Mhm.
draped over her right leg. We
Mhm.
saw her left leg.
Mhm.
Her right leg was like foggy, like it was
Mhm.
gone. Me and James were like, yeah, okay. So what do you don't want to like freak her out because she was afraid to look down, and we're looking at
Uh-huh.
this, and she says out loud, whatever is touching my leg, could you please go? I don't like it. Then she looks down, and the three of us all
Uh-huh.
see this thing, which looked like the thing that me and Trevor saw
Mhm.
scatter across, disappear across the cell and out the door, and then disappear. And we all just sat there like, when we all three see at the same time,
Uh-huh.
we're not making like we're not
Wow.
we're not like building off each other's opinions. Like
Uh-huh.
do you know what I mean? Like you don't. We all fucking saw it at the same time, which was
Mhm.
crazy. So I had all these things happen to me while I wrote. So I kept a diary. I'm going to publish the
Mhm.
diary at the end of the book. One of the
Okay.
things, one of the things that was really weird
Mhm.
is that Ghost Tube app. It takes frequencies and it finds like a word bank to convert it. Right.
Okay.
Night number one, and I took a screenshot of it in case anybody ever wants to throw the bullshit flag at me. I actually screenshot. My main character's name is Hannah.
Mhm.
The first paragraph of the novel is her and the person she's coming to arriving at the Missouri State Penitentiary.
Mhm.
First paragraph does not mention her name at all. It's told
Mhm.
by the driver. She's a
Mhm.
passenger, kind of looking out over her window, like he's kind
Mhm.
of like leaning across, right?
Mhm.
Second paragraph, I'm writing.
Mhm.
Hannah looks at the building.
Yep.
When I typed her name for the very first time in my book, the first
Mhm.
time I typed the word Hannah and hit period, my
Mhm.
GhostTube app went Hannah. And I went,
Interesting.
fuck no. So I screenshotted it. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
I love that.
dude, and instantly.
I love that.
It was within half a second,
Uh-huh.
I typed, and Hannah looked out the window at
Mhm.
the entrance too. Boom. My ghost tube app went Hannah. What the fuck? Like, what the fuck?
I
So,
think Hannah here approves.
oh, she's here. Okay, cool. Yeah. So, she knows the story. So I don't know if she was here when I, earlier when I talked about her personal stuff earlier, but we can always go into that later. But yeah, so it was fucked up to have the app to just be like Hannah within seconds of me typing her name the first time. It was like they knew, right? So I had a thing where every single day that I wrote in the penitentiary, I started off in A Hall, which is housing unit 4, and I would walk through the front doors and I would always announce myself. And I didn't even know if anybody's listening, right? Again, because I'm a skeptic, but I'm not a skeptic, but I am a skeptic, but I'm not a skeptic, right? Like you got to give me, and I'd come in and I'd be like, hey guys, I'm here, I'm back. What you guys got? Oh, I was told that they're known to drain power from like iPhones and stuff like that. Like there's been
Okay, so from like technology, essentially. Okay.
yeah, so there's been stories of people who have 100% battery on their phone go to take a picture, and then it say that you don't have enough battery to take this picture, like it drains. I was writing one night. I was writing one night in A Hall. The joke amongst the Missouri against the tour guides is you don't say A Hall too fast because it sounds like something else. But I was in Unit 4 and noticed that I just sat down at my writing table and I noticed that like my battery was draining, right? It gave me like this, I was like, what the fuck? I just sat down to write. So I hovered my mouse over my battery thing and I actually watched the percentage go bloop, 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 bloop. And I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. So I went back, I had to go back to the office and plug my laptop in to charge it. And part of me was angry because they were robbing me of a whole night to write. Like I only have so much time to write this book.
Yeah.
Right? So I went back into A Hall and I made this big announcement. Like if anybody had this on video, it looked like I'm an idiot talking to myself. And I'm like standing in the middle of A Hall and I'm like, look, guys, you can't do that to me. It's like, I only have so much time to write this book. And I was like, I will have words with any of you who want to keep fucking with my laptop. I was like, you don't touch my laptop. I was like, is that clear? There was no, obviously, I didn't get a response. Like, the need to go in and make this announcement, right? And all the tour guides were
wish somebody filmed this. This sounds great.
Yeah. So, and another time, I was sitting in my writing desk, and I was typing, and my app went off, and it said, "Beside you," and I was like, "Okay, beside me." And I looked, and I was like, "Beside me where?" And it said 28. And I looked, and I was literally beside cell 28. It was touch it.
Yes.
And I was like, and so I did one of these.
Yeah, get me the F away from this.
Yeah, you don't make that shit up, right? So it was fucked. But anyway, so the point was yes, I needed a storyline. Hannah is logged in, so I guess I'll recap real quickly. But I was smitten by her, and she's so interesting. She's got and I met her because Get Haunted, put me in a group with her, and I never would have met her otherwise. And again,
it's almost like it was almost meant to be.
It was like a serendipity thing, right? And I feel everybody who's working on this right now, everybody, the tour guides from MSP, the whole Get Haunted crew, Hannah and everybody, this book could not exist if we weren't all like working together, and we didn't all come together and just love and be excited about the project. But yeah, staying there. So what I did do, so I before every tour, ghost tour and ghost hunt, I gave a speech. All right, I would stand up after they gave like the safety briefing. I
Okay.
would stand up and I'd be like, "Hey guys, I'd look into this room and I'd go, "Hey guys, I'm an author from Salem, Massachusetts. I'm here writing a horror novel about the place. If you see me and I'm in a cell that you want to come in and investigate, let me know and kick me out, right? Because
Okay.
you need money to be here. But if you also see me and you want to talk to me, I was like, I'm very approachable. I'd love to talk
Okay.
I'll talk about what I'm doing, whatever." I had to stop doing that for 2 reasons. I like that you're laughing.
It's cracking me up so much.
So I had to stop giving that speech for 2 reasons. One, because people were coming up to me. Actually, what I ended my speech with was, if anything happens to you here at Missouri State Penitentiary and you see me, come, let me know, and maybe I'll work it into the book. Maybe not. Well, I started to find that we had like crackpots, like finding me 20 minutes into a ghost hunt, right? 20 minutes into a ghost hunt. And I don't know if any of the MSP staff are watching, but I believe that Dan and Jenny or Lisa might remember this lady. We were down in the dungeon, and the dungeon is one of the most haunted places. The dungeon is one of the 2 places that I would not go to write by myself.
Okay.
No way.
Because it feels more like it's like spiritual but dangerous spiritual vibe.
I don't right.
It's where fact, probably more traumatic.
In fact, Rob from Get Haunted somehow talked me into going down to the dungeon and self-filming a 5-minute update on the writing of the book in one of the cells, and I don't know how he did that. I must like that guy a lot, because I spent the entire time looking over my phone at what was beyond, because I was like, I just know something's going to come in this room and want to fuck me up. But anyway, so this woman, after I used to give that speech, and this woman came up to me, and within 20 minutes of them being released on a free roam, 20 minutes, she had every story you could have ever imagined that happened to her in 20 minutes. She's like, oh, you're the author writing the book, right? So my hair got pulled. I got flung across the wall. I'm possessed by 3 demons. I think I won the lottery. And I don't know, maybe, I'm just like, oh my God, you're making all of this up. Like, none of this happened. Absolutely none of this happened to you. Right? So, because the funny thing
about, she just wanted to be in the book. Sounds like that's what she wanted.
Right? I found that people were just like wanting to vie to like shoehorn any story to be in my novel. So what I found is that being the Missouri State Penitentiary staff, the crew, and then me being there for 8 weeks, there's a very specific things that happen. Right? There is things that happen over and over and over. So you can put on a list, these are the things that you could expect to happen to you, right? So when people came up to us with things that weren't on that list over the last, this is a list so it's a proverbial list, right? But it's it's stuff that's been compiled over the last 10 to 15 years of them doing ghost hunts. So if you're going to bring something in within 20 minutes that doesn't fit anywhere in that list, we're calling the bullshit flag. I'm sorry. You're making this up, because nobody has ever experienced this in Missouri State Penitentiary. So I had to take that out of my speech. And then poor Sheila, the prison boss, I love her to death, but she started getting phone calls from other authors who wanted to write a book and get access to the prison. So halfway through my stay, we went from me standing up and giving this like really cool speech and kind of like getting people like excited to having to go like on the down low and like have to do it because people were like,
because if they do it for one, now it's like, well, why won't they do it for others? Yep, I could see that.
Right. So it got in the staff. The staff were really creative with still allowing me to let people know why I was there without that initial speech because the crackpots all came out, so which, I guess I should have foreseen, but I didn't. So, anyway, but
Well, so I think what's really interesting is I think you've helped them figure out what the marketing thing is going to be for the second book.
right. What?
Invite all the people there. We're going to write you into the next book.
Nice.
You want to be part of a ghost story? Come to the penitentiary.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, sure. Yeah. Yeah, it was fun. It was, and yeah, people were either totally just so like excited to talk to me about the fact that I was writing a book there, or they wanted to give me their life story because they thought that like they would be a character, right? And
yeah, and I mean, I think it's because that what you did, it's such a unique thing. When somebody does a unique thing, and this is the same for any type of book or anything on socials, when you do something unique, it draws attention, and then everyone wants to copy you and try to do the same thing or do it better. So I'm totally not surprised, but I have such respect for your experience. I try to put myself in your shoes and ask myself if I could write a horror novel like that without getting scared. And then thinking back to every single ghost story I've ever heard in my entire life, I don't know. I have such respect for you. That's like,
so you want,
especially the dungeons. The dungeons don't sound fun.
Really quick story. I don't know if we're running out of time or not, but I don't know if we have time for a really quick story.
So I think we're good. I think we're good.
So this was actually, Hannah was there. Hannah and her friend Lizzie, and my friend Taylor and her friend Victoria and my sister Alicia. My sister Alicia flew in from Salem for this weekend. So we picked a night where like we were all gonna be there, like during the writing process, like, right. It was gonna be fucking awesome. And I love that they were all there because I feel like these people are just part of my family now.
Okay.
Well, they had a ghost tour happen where all of them were part of the ghost tour. So Hannah and Lizzie and my sister and Taylor and Victoria, they were all part of Jenny's ghost tour. And if you ever meet Jenny or if you go on YouTube and see any sort of videos of Jenny, with people ghost hunting, you'll know what I'm talking about. She's a firecracker. She's okay. No. I mean, even in, so I'm going to derail for a second because I love derailing. Jenny, in the book, I describe her as a firecracker of a woman. Okay. The moment I wrote those words in my novel, my GhostTube app said, "That's funny." Right? So that was weird. Anyway, so Jenny's just like the super firecracker, right? So she was running this ghost hunt, this tour, and they were in the women's unit, housing unit 1. And all the guests were, I guess, up against the wall, looking at cells in front of them. So nobody was in any of the cells. All the guests were over here. And Jenny was like, okay, we're going to go now move to housing unit 4. I was in housing unit 4 writing at that desk that I told you that I had a makeshift desk.
Yep.
So I did not know this was happening because they were in another building. One of the guests raised her phone and took a picture. And then just took a picture, right?
Yep. It's
a picture of the most concrete ghost I've ever seen in my life. She she squealed. I guess my sister, Alicia, was standing next to her when this happened. And Alicia was like, what? And then she showed my sister the picture, which means this woman did not have time to go into some sort of program and Photoshop, right? She took it, went, and then showed my sister. And then Jenny was like, what? Or whatever. I may have the actual like details. I wasn't there, but this is what I was told happened. Jenny took it and was like, oh my fucking God. And then texted it to everybody. She was like, she looked at the woman and she was like, oh my God. So this picture, I have it on my phone, is wild. Like if you are a skeptic, look at this picture and tell me you're not skeptic anymore. When nobody was in that cell, when we have a whole row of people saying nobody was in that cell. Well, because we know what cell it was, I spent the next 2 to 3 weeks writing in the archway of that cell specifically. because what we have
Interesting.
photo is a ghost within the archway, right, coming through the cells,
Mm-hmm.
through the bars. So I made sure I put myself there while I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep. To really get the right like spirit, the right
so
vibe. Yep.
this is just a good example of like when I wrote the book, I moved around the property. I didn't stay stagnant. I didn't say, well, I'm going to sit in cell 20 and write for 8
write
weeks.
it legitimately
Every time
sounds like you wrote this entire book in nearly every
moved
part of this
everywhere.
penitentiary that you were able to
I
over the
sat
course of a
in
few
the
months.
gas chamber chairs where people were executed in
Ooh,
rooms. And
God,
I
that's
made
just like
sure
that just like
made
gives
sure I
me the
moved
chills thinking
around.
about that.
But when I
Like
found out
good
about that
chills.
cell, it was amazing. And then Hannah, I think Hannah, if I remember correctly, I know she's logged in. She has a REM pod that's in the form of a doll. I think we put she named it Abigail. I think we put Abigail in the cell or near the cell also to try to get some stuff from it. But because we got such a concrete picture, and I'm going to say this to everybody watching, I got permission from the person who took that photo to put it in the book. So at the end of the book, in my diary author's note, I'm actually going to put that photo, and you can see for yourself. It is wild how detailed this picture is of this thing in the cell. Yep, it's crazy.
So, Brian, I think this is absolutely incredible. I feel like that you have a whole nother book that you can publish just about writing the book.
I know
this is such an awesome experience. I love the ghost stories. I feel like you just have so many ghost stories, and I love it. As I think about the development aspect, and as you're thinking about like, all right, this picture, all these other stories, and it sounds like you're including the journal at the end of the story, which is awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. So as I think about like what's next for it, how have you gone about like marketing? Like what does this look like? Since I know you shared everybody, yes, they're interested in the book, but it sounds like they care about the event. What does that look like? Do you have anything coming up for people who want to know more or read the book?
Yeah, so we're doing a big book release party at the Missouri State Penitentiary at an 8-hour overnight ghost hunt with Get Painted. And all my characters who are in the book are going to fly in or come in or drive in from wherever they are.
Yep, and I pulled this up for you. This is super cool.
Yep.
So this is a live event that you'll be doing next year. You said this was June of 21.
June 21st.
June 21st. Yep.
And we are, it's with the Get Haunted crew, who are, they are the ghost hunting troupe that are in the book when this all goes south, the plot of the book. But yeah, so we will be there. There is limited tickets. I'm going to say that there is a cap. This isn't an open thing where you just keep buying, keep buying, keep buying. So if you want to come, you get because once we've sold out, we sell out. It's over. Right now is an early bird special, meaning that I think January 1st, the price of a ticket is going to go up. So we're doing this kind of as a pre-promotional. Let's get people out there, buy a ticket. I will be out there. The Missouri State Penitentiary staff will all be hands-on board.
This is June 21st. I want to go out there now. This is like such a cool experience.
The whole
I love haunt. So by the way, I know I didn't share this originally, but I love supernatural, the whole haunted stuff. Like I mentioned briefly, I worked for a psychic for a year, and I went on psychic ghost haunting adventures with her all the time. And I think it was always such a great experience to come in as maybe a mild skeptic and really just seeing things that shouldn't make sense, but yet they happen. And that's why I have such respect for it, because this is so cool.
No, in the Get Haunted crew, like, I'm gonna have to say something about them. I have no affiliation with them other than the fact that I went to one of their events and met them and fell in love with the way that they do things, and then contacted them and said, hey, would you be interested in being part of my book? Right. So I don't work for them. I'm not part of their troupe. So
Yeah, so it sounds like it's just a very cool collaboration.
My endorsement of them doesn't come from the fact that like I work with them at all, right? So when I tell you that these are the greatest people, some of the greatest people I've ever been involved with, again, serendipity, right? I think the universe put me in a spot where I was supposed to meet these absolutely amazing people. And when it comes to the book release party, the characters of the book are all real people, and I'm trying to get everybody who's in the book there. That would mean Hannah has to come down. My sister Alicia would have to fly out. Taylor would have to come. And I think what we want to do is a scavenger hunt where
that sounds fun.
Where it's the pictures of them hidden throughout all the penitentiary. And the first person to find all the pictures gets like this like massive gift or something. I don't know. We're gonna figure it out. But I want to read.
I think that's a really good idea, because especially people are going into it with what they've heard from what you've shared online.
Right.
So now they're going into it with these expectations of like it's going to be creepy. What am I going to expect? And then it kind of lets them maybe explore a little bit.
Yeah.
Which that sounds great. That's a great idea.
In the tour, and if you come to the book release party, it's gonna be split up a little bit. I'm gonna take people around and show them specifically where I wrote, specifically where things happen. Like, okay, like this is the hallway where this scene happened, right? But the Get Haunted crew, they come with all of their very professional ghost hunting equipment, right?
Absolutely.
And they let people use it. And we're gonna have free food.
That's cool.
I mean, so they're so good at letting people like check
kind
out,
of like experience what it feels like to be
and they'll be there to like show people how to use it, and they'll be there to take people around. We'll do a gas chamber whole thing. We'll do, and it's just the book release party. I'm hoping is just going to be off the chain. It's going to be 8 hours that you will never forget. So
it probably will. I mean, it sounds like you guys are probably going to sell out of tickets, especially if it's still 6, 7, 8 months ahead, and you're probably going to sell out by early spring at the latest.
Yeah,
so that sounds really, really cool.
The tickets are cheap, and so really, if you're coming from anywhere but Missouri, all you have to worry about is how to get there, and the hotels around Jefferson City are very inexpensive. So it's going to be totally worth the bang for your buck. We are doing this. I'm even thinking about. I've been contemplating doing a red carpet where I'm going to go to Home Depot and get an actual red carpet
and do one of those red carpets. Yeah, red carpets they're actually pretty easy to do. Having worked in Hollywood for 10 years, red carpets are pretty easy to get together.
Right.
Do you like some type of like haunted, like maybe like if you can get one, you can get it torn? And you can do something that creates this like creepy red carpet experience.
So what I want to do is, so here's what, like off the cuff, right? So I'm like revealing stuff here that I'm just in my brain. I'd like everybody to be able to get a picture, like a photographer that when they're going to take a photo in the lobby, but when they get the photo back, there's like a ghost like behind them, like a superimposed.
Interesting. So they take the picture, but then would the ghost behind them would be some type of like after Photoshop?
Like the Haunted Mansion at Disney, when you like look at the mirror and you go by and there's like a ghost in your cart, have something like there. I don't know. I'm just
well, I think what you need to do is you need to go ahead like a day or two before and ask the ghost if they're willing to take pictures.
Yeah, I will. I mean, I have a couple of people. So here's something. So here's something funny, and I don't know who's watching if I'm gonna get in trouble for this, but so in the novel, my main character Hannah, she steals what she takes from one of the cells is called a closet strip. All the prisoners, when they came in, had to sew their own strip of cloth where they would hang their clothes from, and then they would bolt it into the wall. So, and there's still hundreds of these all over the property. You can go into any of these cells and still see these closet strips hanging.
Okay.
So this is what she steals. It's easy to rip it off the wall, kind of fold it into a ball and put in your pocket and leave, right? One of the memento. So me and Jenny, okay, Sheila, if you're watching, block your ears, so turn away. So me and Jenny, one night, she's like, She's like, you do know you have to you do know you have to go away with one of those strips, right? Because that's what your whole book is based on. And I was like, I guess so. So, but won't Sheila yell at us? And Jenny's like, maybe, but it's worth it. I was like, okay. So, so cell 115. We stole one.
Yes.
So this is one of the closet strips. Right? And so you can ball it in. But this is so the inmates would make their own, and they would put the hanger through, and this is where they would hang their clothes, and they would it was bolted to the wall. So there are a ton of these still in Missouri State Penitentiary in all of the cells. They're still everywhere.
So ever since that you acquired that, have you been getting any ghostly visitors at your home now?
Is there another show?
Like, do we have time for a couple more hours? So I think that's actually a great transition for some Q&A. So what questions do you have for Brian about this experience? Whether you want to know more about the book, whether you want to know more about what it was like writing literally with the spirits and the ghosts, like clearly you had so many stories to tell, or if you want to know more about the upcoming book launch, drop your questions down in the comments below because I would love to hear. And Brian, while I'm waiting to see if any questions come in, my question to you, what was your favorite part of this experience? Like absolute most favorite memorable part, now that you look back, now that you're kind of on the tail end of, okay, books getting to that point, what was it?
My favorite moment was back when I was still allowed to kind of give speeches before the ghost hunts happened. I would tell people that I would not go to the dungeon or 3D to write by myself. I was too scared. Just too much shit. I had a amateur ghost hunting crew find me and say, hey, we're going to go down to 3D and we're going to investigate. If you want to come with us so you can write, that'll be awesome. I went down with them and I sat in this. So at the very end of 3D is a shower. And this is where a lot of bad shit has happened. And this is where people see the 7-foot shadow figure. And there's a lot of moving parts happening. But there was a chair and I would sit in it and I would write. And they started doing their investigating. And they had all of these REM pods and cat balls out and all this stuff out. And they were playing music. And we realized that all the REM pods and everything were going to the beat of the music that they were playing, which shouldn't happen. That's
kind of cool.
It shouldn't happen. So when the song ended, the song ended and everything went black. And we were like, okay, play something else. And they played something else. And then all the lights started beating to that beat. And we were like, how do you explain this? Like, this is wild. Right?
Wow.
And then
okay.
So this also adds on to it. So Marianne is a one of the tour guides. Marianne had an experience in 3D right where we were, where she had a shadow figure go in front of her, and her Fitbit watch is now 4 minutes earlier than her phone, and every time she resyncs it, it's still 4 minutes earlier. So it actually fucked with the timing of her watch. We started talking about Marianne for some reason, and every time we talked about it, all the REM pods went like all lights. So we were like, that's weird. So I started to be like, do you remember when Marianne was down here and you fucked with her Fitbit watch? And all the lights went green and then died. I was like, do you want? Okay. I was like, you want I was like, Miriam's working right now. Do you want her to come down? And we had like 4 REM pods go all out. So I called her. I was down there. I actually called Jenny because I knew Jenny was with her. It's like, hey, put Miriam on the phone, please. So Miriam gets on the phone. It's like, hey, could you come down to 3D? I think they want to see you. So Miriam comes down, and if anyone who's ever been down to 3D in Missouri State Penitentiary, you come down these stairs, the only staircase, and then it's a horseshoe.
Okay.
When hooked the last horseshoe and she started coming down and she was like visible, all the fucking apparatuses went crazy. I was like,
oh my God.
okay. Like that's fucked up. Like you can't make them do that, right?
Wow.
And they were talking about her. And they asked for her to come down and they all went crazy. So yeah, that was, and that ghost, that little ghost hunting troop, they were really, really cool. I loved hanging out with them. They, because what I would do was I would walk around with my laptop and follow them.
Because it said they love the redheads.
Yeah. But so me and Lisa and I have a very interesting story, if you want to hear it, about Cell 10. There was Lisa put a REM pod in the doorway of Cell 10 and it kept going off, right? So we knew that something was passing through or was standing there or whatever.
Okay.
So me and Lisa walked into Cell 10. We walked in and there was good enough space between us and the doorway, right? So we walked in halfway through the cell, but we stayed facing forward. She brought up an app where you can ask like the ghosts to see like what they see, right? No, Lisa, you know this story. We've told this 100 times. So Lisa asked, she says, tell me what you see right now, right? And on her app, it starts doing its thing and it comes up. It was the backs of our heads.
What? That's so creepy.
On her phone was
that is so creepy
of our heads.
That is so
the
creepy.
REM pod was behind us going on. So something was standing behind us. Yeah. I looked and I was like, girl.
I think the real question that comes to mind is when will the screenplay, when will the movie of this experience come out? When's it coming to theaters?
Hey, when anybody wants to pick up the script, let's do it.
Oh my God.
Who's a filmmaker, let's work. Let's do this.
This sounds like such a great experience. We actually got a great question here from ML. So it looks like it's a two-part question. First off, are you indie or traditional published?
All right. So I am on what's called a small press. So it's indie.
Okay.
Indie
Yep.
So right now, we live in a world where traditional publishing is considered the big five.
Yep.
I know, and that is, I would never want to be on the big five anymore. We live in a world where indie presses and small presses give so much power to their authors. I couldn't imagine signing a contract to the big five anymore because they pick your cover, they pick the editor, you get very little say. Sure, and now we live in a world with self-publishing and we live in a world with indie publishing. Household names aren't going to exist anymore. And that's a really weird thing to say. And that's hard for me to say, but the Stephen Kings of the world aren't going to exist anymore. We're not going to have that arena rock author. What we're going to have are the people that you love and that you're going to tell your friend about and that they're going to love and hopefully tell their friend about. It's an organic, homegrown authoring system. So the big five, I think, is still kind of stuck on that homegrown,
almost like an antiquated. They're kind of stuck in almost an antiquated system,
right? And so we're not there. I don't want to be there. So I'm very, very happy on a small press. My publishing company.
And then his follow-up was like, how do you think it would have been different to publish if you had gone the other route? So maybe self-publishing or one with the big five. Do you think it would have been a way different experience?
Yeah, I think both ways would have been different, right? So the big five, you would have been lost in the white noise, right? This was a really cool experience, was that I was able to write this novel over 8 weeks inside the penitentiary. The big five wouldn't have cared. Well, they would have been like, well, that's cool. So it'll be a tagline in the blurb. Done. Who's next?
Okay.
Right? It's a machine. It's a machine. True self-publishing, I think, would have been a lot of yeah, a lot more effort. Not that I don't love effort, because I do love effort, but there's something to be said about an indie press that has a marketing budget. When this book is ready to go live, we are going to be pushing, Facebook ads and Amazon ads, stuff like that. And when you're self-published, if you don't have that money, you can't spend it, right? So you need money to make money.
You need to have a little bit more finances going the self-published route, where indie
Right.
you kind of get that boost.
Exactly. So being
Makes sense.
on an indie publisher, you get that kind of there's like a safety net or a little cushion of, okay, well, I know we're going to spend $10,000 on advertising. Well, does every self-published author have $10,000 sitting in their couch to advertise their book? So I think that's the happy medium. Yeah.
And I know you said, so how many books do you have published so far?
10.
So 10. So this is going to be book number 11.
Correct.
That's coming out. So and I know obviously this one is clearly a ghost story. Of your other 10, are they all in the similar horror genre, or they're a different range of genres, aren't they?
Yeah. So they say, write what you like to read. I think we opened with that, right? So I like to read everything. So I don't know how. So the joke is I don't know how to stay in my lane, and that's actually on my business card, like author who doesn't know how to stay in his lane, right? So I'd like to think that I'm a speculative fiction author. Speculative fiction covers fantasy, sci-fi, horror. Basically, anything that Twilight Zone would have made an episode over is speculative, right?
Okay.
It could be scary, creepy, sci-fi, fantasy, right? I have danced outside my purview. I do have a historical war romance novel, which has, so that is straightforward. I do have an urban crime thriller, so I got, like gangs, like a Boys in the Hood type, novel, which, so I do write outside that, but for the most part, I stick within the sci-fi, fantasy, horror. My time travel novel we talked about earlier, before we went live. My time travel novel was nominated for a Hugo Award in 2016.
So incredible.
I lost to The Martian. They made a movie about it with Matt Damon. So I sleep at night.
So if you had won, it would have you would have gotten the Matt Damon movie made.
No, so I sleep at night saying that Matt Damon would have played a terrible lead for my book, so it's okay that I lost to The Martian. But so I do have a time travel novel, and I've I do have a supernatural crime noir trilogy, which is about a detective hot on the trail of a Jack the Ripper style killer, but there's a 300-year-old witch from Salem, where every time the killer kills somebody, she reanimates the corpse because she's building an army of ghouls. And the detective gets wind of this, and he has to make a decision. Does he side with the killer to take down the witch, or does he side with the witch to take down the killer? So that's a trilogy that I have. So I'm kind of all over the place, right?
Well, I love that. So it sounds like if people want to check out your work, it sounds like you have a range of speculative fiction, which is kind of in that genre and in that range. And if people want to check you out, where can they go?
They can go to my website, brianpaone.com, but I also am, all of my books are available in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. And I say that because so many people do audiobooks now. Every single one of my 10 published novels are available in audiobook.
Did you hire somebody? Did you hire somebody to do the audio for them?
Yeah, I actually audition narrators every single book.
For each one? Cool.
Which is my least favorite part of being an author. Yeah. I hate listening to 40 to 50 excerpts of the same 1,500 words trying to pick my narrator. But my books are available in every single bookstore in America, the UK, Canada, and Australia. So I am worldwide. And if you do audio, you do ebook, you do paperback, boom, boom, boom. If you go to my website and you buy a paperback, I sign it. That's the only way you can get one signed, unless you come to an event where I'm there. All books ordered through my website come signed. Audio books through my website, actually cheaper than Audible, iTunes, and all that. You get it as an MP3. So I kind of help people out, like, oh shit, I want the audiobook of that, but Audible is $24.99. Hey, look at that, Brian's got it for $6.99 on his website. It's the same fucking file. It's just I'm trying to like help people out and not, So,
well, I absolutely love that. And then for anyone who wants to go check you out, the link to your website is also down in the YouTube description down below.
appreciate
But
it.
as we
And
reach this part,
I was gonna
you
say,
said one more thing.
yeah, well, because if you do that, if anybody's interested in going to the book release party, the overnight
Mhm,
ghost hunt at Missouri State Penitentiary, which is going to
mhm,
be amazing. If
mhm,
you go to my website under upcoming appearances,
mhm.
the link to get a ticket is on that there.
I will also, after the stream ends, I'll link that down in the description as well. So if you're
Okay.
watching this on the replay, go get your ticket because the tickets are going to sell out. So
Yeah.
like get your ticket
You've
now.
already sold a whole bunch.
And we're still 8 months ahead of
They're
time. So
limited,
you got
so
time to plan. You got time to do what you got to do. Buy the tickets now.
yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then as we reach this part of the podcast, Brian, I always have to ask my guests one final question.
Okay. Oh my God.
If
I get ready
tomorrow,
to hold on.
if tomorrow was your last chapter in the book of life,
Yes.
you were killed by a ghost,
Okay.
and you could leave behind with the world one philosophy or quote of your own making,
Yes.
what would it be?
Tacos should be a love language.
Tacos should be a love language.
Mhm. I don't know why it's not, right? We have like physical touch, like all this stuff. Fucking tacos. Tacos should be a love language.
I absolutely love that. As now the rest of the day, I'm going to be wanting tacos, and I definitely blame you. Brian, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an incredible conversation. I am so inspired to go write a horror story, and I feel like I have to go do it in some place that's haunted now.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for taking time to chat with me today. I know I'll have to bring you back at some point. I know you have so many other stories to share outside of this single book, outside the single ghost story. And I just want to say I really appreciate your time joining me today.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I love it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, my friend. And as we wrap up this last part of the podcast, and we think towards creative writing on the morrow, if you want more daily writing motivation, I am here every day with the Right Now community, 300 consecutive writing streams and counting. So make sure you come follow. We're here on YouTube, Discord, and I also go through Facebook, Instagram, and all the other socials. So come on and join. If you're looking for something to watch next, you're like, hey, I don't want the fun to end, down in the YouTube description is one of our other popular episodes, how you can build an authentic author brand in 2024 with another one of our guest authors. It was awesome. So definitely go check that out. I'll be back tomorrow with our Casual Monday update live stream. And next weekend is our Freaky Friday flash fiction competition. So if you want more horror, if you want more vibes, or if you want more spookiness, we have some very creepy flash fiction stories that you get to vote on with the live community. So come join us next weekend. And most importantly, don't forget, if you enjoyed the stream, like it on the way out. Let us know that you got value out of this. Help us show the world that writing streams are cool. All right, my friends. And thank you so much for all the love. Thank you for all the comments. I absolutely loved seeing Brian's community here in the chat. You guys all seem awesome. I now want to meet the Get Haunted network. I feel like I want to go on some ghost adventures now. So thank you all for joining us. And unfortunately, that brings us to the end of the stream. Don't forget, words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kaufman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers.